The 1980s and early 1990s is categorized by bright colors, geometric patterns, and maximalism. But why exactly is this? The design style that overtook this era is known as Memphis Design, which originated from the short-lived artistic group Memphis Milano, also known as Memphis Group. Memphis Design exploded into mainstream culture and defined many aspects of popular culture at the time and still continues to influence art and culture today. In order to understand the Memphis design style, we first have to understand the Memphis Group and their origins. The post-war era saw the birth of many minimalist design styles that focused on the functionality by utilizing primary colors, geometric lines, and no embellishments. In 1981, the Memphis Group, led by Ettore Sottsass, sought to break away from these conventions by creating emotionally impactful designs. They included many different patterns, vibrant and clashing colors, and cheap materials into their designs. Some of the most iconic designs by the group include the Carlton room divider and the first chair, the only product by the group to be mass-produced. The problem was that their designs were not very functional and too flamboyant to be used in the average home. Avid enjoyers of the interior design, such as David Bowie and Karl Lagerfeld, collected and decorated their homes with Memphis Group pieces. The entirety of Karl Lagerfeld's Monaco apartment in the 1980s was decorated with Memphis pieces. The influence of design and ideology of Memphis Design can also be seen in Lagerfeld's work during and even after the time period. Although the group went their separate ways, in 1987, the Memphis design style had already become sensational and deeply entrenched in pop culture. In 1981, MTV launched, which would forever change the way we interact with music. MTV was revolutionary in that it aired music videos of all different types of artists and genres on national television, which was quite controversial at the time. MTV changed the way audiences consumed not only music but also fashion, lingo, and overall youth culture. MTV broke away from tradition and captured the spirit of youthful rebelliousness, which shaped an entire generation of young people. In order to capture this rebellious and free-spirited mindset, MTV adopted the Memphis design style into their brand image. One of the most iconic and recognizable symbols of MTV is their logo. The Memphis style was incorporated into the logo by including the geometric shapes, bright colors, and squiggly patterns that were used in the Memphis Group furniture designs. The inclusion of the Memphis design in the MTV brand image helped further push the Memphis design style into mainstream culture, and it was soon adopted by popular music artists at the time as well. One of the most famous sitcoms of this era is Saved by the Bell, which aired from 1989 to 1993. When the show first aired, it was an immediate success with teenagers all over the country, as it was one of the only shows aimed for teens on the Saturday morning time slot, and they felt that they were able to connect with the experiences of the characters. Just like MTV, Saved by the Bell was able to popularize Memphis design through almost every element of the show, such as intro, fashion, and interior design. The intro is playful and dynamic and tests the limits of what can be done with organic and geometric shapes. The local hangout spot known as the Max is peak Memphis design, with absurd shapes and angles sticking out of every corner, and a very intense color palette in a variety of shades that really encapsulates this youthful and joyful aesthetic. The 80s and early 90s were known for being very maximalist. The influence from Memphis design was seen in how the hair, makeup, and fashion was often bigger and bolder. Young people in particular used the Memphis design style as a way to rebel against the rise in conservative attitudes and policies pushed by Ronald Reagan. The ideology of Memphis design goes against traditional values and conformity by being expressive and impactful, which is exactly what young people wanted to achieve. Everything from their head to their toes was seen as a statement of individuality and self-expression.
Who the fuck did your hair?
Women and men of all ages wore big hairstyles, often incorporating textures by perming and crimping. Makeup, especially that of popular music artists of the time, was very intense and heavily relied on bright colors. They often wore metallic colors, bright eye makeup, bold lips, and intense blush and bronzer. Makeup really pushed the boundaries of beauty and artistry, with experimental, over-the-top, and sometimes messy looks. Pop and rock artists alike often included the shapes and patterns of Memphis design into their makeup looks. The fashion of the era was also no exception to this, with loud and clashing colors, patterns all over the runways in high fashion and in casual wear as well. There were so many different styles and subcultures in the 80s, and yet as distinct as they were united by the influence of Memphis Design. From athleisure to high fashion, the same Memphis Design elements adorn the clothes of women and men of all ages. Women in particular use very aggressive silhouettes with baggy blazers, puffy sleeves, and protruding shoulder pads. The ideologies of Memphis Design heavily influenced the rise in feminism in this era. Even after Memphis Design went out of style in the mainstream culture of the late 90s and 2000s, its influence was undeniable. The 2010s in particular saw a huge resurgence of trends and styles from the 1980s. The millennial generation revitalized the maximalism of this era with geometric shapes, patterns, intense color palettes, and big, along with slim, silhouettes coming back into mainstream fashion. High fashion brands also experimented with elements of Memphis Design throughout the 2010s. Dior in particular utilized the Memphis Design style in their Fall/Winter 2011 Haute Couture collection. The models strutted down the runway with huge hair and bold eye makeup. They sported shapes on their heads such as cubes and cones, along with many other funky geometric and organic shapes on their clothing. The colors, textures, and patterns they adorned all clashed, yet worked together to create one harmonious Memphis Design look. Outside of fashion, Memphis Design has become a prominent part of digital media and consumption since the 2010s. The millennial nostalgia for the 80s, along with the need for a new and innovative style, led to the birth of one of the most long-lasting and widespread art styles inspired by Memphis Design. Corporate Memphis.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Corporate Memphis is an art style that emerged in the mid-2010s and was primarily used by tech giants, but now it is used by almost all companies and it is heavily tied to consumerism. Although it is now a very controversial art style, it was once considered to be a fun, creative, unique, and versatile art style that allowed companies to clearly get their message across to consumers. Just like the Memphis Group, in all the areas of society where the style was prominent. Corporate Memphis was born as a form of rebellion against traditional digital media and notions of consumerism, also an easy way for companies to help consumers understand certain concepts in a simple and efficient manner in an era that was rapidly evolving technologically. Corporate Memphis is characterized by bright colors, flat design, flat geometric shapes, whimsical patterns, and figures with exaggerated limbs. So why is Corporate Memphis now considered controversial? The short answer is that it's now considered boring and unoriginal. It's inescapable as it is used by almost every single major corporation. It's also being criticized for being lazy, as it requires little time or effort to create in software such as Adobe Illustrator. Companies use Corporate Memphis to seem quirky and friendly when in reality they only care about generating revenue. This has led the style to be associated with ideas of capitalist greed. Unlike true Memphis Design, it lacks character and originality. It is a soulless, bland, and disingenuous marketing ploy that does not seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. The Memphis Design style was the style that defined the 1980s and early 1990s. Although the Memphis Group itself was very short-lived, the ideas of Memphis Design of modernity, personalization, and maximalism were able to resonate with the younger generations, and they incorporated it into their style, media, and overall culture. The bold colors, geometric shapes, and intricate patterns that were seen everywhere throughout the era are still being used to this day in interior design, fashion, and visual forms of communication. Although Memphis Design emphasized individuality and left behind its rebellious style, its legacy is also one of capitalism and consumer culture.